What's going on, Ham Fam Squad, and welcome back to another tier list. This time we're ranking the Weeknd's studio albums, his 5 albums, and 3 mixtapes, and putting them in objective order on what I think is his best material. And I'm not doing My Dear Melancholy because it's just an EP, and honestly, I never really listen to it unless it's like Call Out My Name. So yeah, my love for the Weeknd started, I think, in like summer 2019 during my last, I'd say, big Minecraft phase. And at the time, I didn't know how to link, or I didn't have Apple Music, so I couldn't listen to music on my computer. So I went to mixtapemonkey.com, which is like a bunch of artists' free mixtapes, and I saw that these 3 were like the most downloaded out of like the whole site. So I was like, all right, I'll check them out. I kind of like the Weeknd. And so I really liked them. And then during that time also is when the singles dropped for After Hours. And that was a huge thing, a huge deal. And I've just been a huge Weeknd fan ever since. I've listened to everything else. And now it's time to put them in order, baby. Starting off at the beginning, we have House of Balloons, his debut mixtape, which changed the landscape for R&B. And I'd say I would put it at the A tier. I think it still really holds up today, although I do think the production is quite dated, and I can say that for all 3 of his debut mixtapes. But this one is definitely the most well-known and classic. It has Wicked Games, High for This, The Knowing, 28 on the bonus track edition or whatever. And all those tracks are amazing. The whole album flows really well, and I think it's awesome. And then next up, we have Thursday, which is the second mixtape he dropped, and I'd put it in C. I do not think it is. I think it's the worst of the 3 mixtapes, honestly. It's not that I dislike it, because it's honestly kind of the same as the first one, except I just don't really like the Birds part 1 and part 2. I like the instrumental on 1 a lot, except I think Thursday as a whole is just when he's the most whiny with his voice. I love his voice on the first one, and obviously he improves on subsequent releases, but on this one it's just full whiny mode, and I just don't really like it. I do really like Heaven or Las Vegas, and what's the opener called? Lonely Star, Thursday, and I always thought Life of the Party was really weird but kind of interesting. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. And then he released Echoes of Silence, which I would put in I'll put it in B tier. I think it's I think it's almost as good as House of Balloons, if not better. I just think House of Balloons has a bigger impact and better songs, but where Echoes of Silence shines is through how all the songs flow together into like one cohesive thing, or at least most of them. And it still has great bangers, same old song. His cover of Dirty Diana by Michael Jackson is obviously really good. And Montreal and most of the tracks here are really good. And then after that, he released his first studio album. And this is probably my most controversial opinion. I would put it in S tier. This is my favorite Weeknd project by far. And it's a controversial one because there were no big singles at all from this, or at really any standout track that made it big. And it wasn't really until Beauty Behind the Madness that he really blew up. But I think this is when he mastered the sound of his trilogy and put him into the best songs possible. The opener, Professional, is super cinematic and awesome. And then Adaptation has a sick sample of The Police's Bring On the Night. And then one of my favorite tracks by him is actually the title track, Kissland, which is 7 minutes, and it's super dark and epic, has a huge beat switch at the second half, and it's pretty cool. And then Wanderlust is calling back to Michael Jackson again. And the closer, Tears in the Rain, I love the beat that this starts out with, like the tick 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 and stuff. Ah, so good. Anyway, then he released Beauty Behind the Madness. I'd say his biggest commercial product at the time, I guess. And I would put it into B tier. I think the singles on this are probably the best in his discography. Although you could say that for Starboy or even After Hours, but I think this one, it's The Hills, I Can't Feel My Face, just two of the biggest, most classic hits for the time. And the rest of the album is okay by comparison. It sort of has like all of them could really be big singles if they wanted to be, and that kind of gets tiring. I kind of want to hear him like experiment and try something new, but it's sort of all the same epic vibe, which is cool, but I wish there was something a little bit more. And then I'd say Starboy goes into C tier. I think it has the same problem as Beauty Behind the Madness, where all of the songs could be singles and all of them try to sound really epic and awesome. And some of them are just as epic and awesome as you might think. I'd say the opener, Starboy, and then the closer, I Feel It Coming, are two of his best tracks. And then through the middle, it's pretty all right. I like A Reminder. I think that beat is super sick, and it's just him gloating how awesome he is, and he deserves it. But the rest, I don't know. It's kind of the samey for me. And then after a huge break, well, he did release this, but I'm not talking about that. We got After Hours, and the build-up for this album was super hype because it was the first one that I was really a fan for and really there for. And I would put it into the A tier. I remember when this released, I was in spring break in Destin, Florida, and I listened to the whole thing, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. He's never done this before. And yeah, you could say it's like just another 80s album, which is what a lot of artists are doing nowadays, but now he's like the first person that did it, and I think the singles from it and the rest of the album, honestly, really holds up, even though it's only been like 2 years. But Blinding Lights and Heartless, bangers. The opener, Alone Again, is awesome. And what was the other single? Save Your Tears, awesome as well. And I pretty much like every track on this, honestly. But I wouldn't say it's as good as Kissland. Although it does, if you catch me on a good day, I might put it in S tier. And then his most recent album is Dawn FM, and I was also super excited for this one. And I liked the release of this one almost just as much as After Hours, because he only released one single from it and then just dropped the whole project at once. And he was like, all right, guys, coming out in a week, here we go. And I was like, thank God I don't have to wait for this. And I really like it. I'll put it in B. I'd say it's like After Hours, that I kind of enjoy all the songs on it, although it feels like just a second helping minus the single power. Like, I don't think there's a huge single on this that would get people hype or get me hype, but all of it together is pretty solid album. I like the single Take My Breath, and then Out of Time is a great one, and Is There Someone Else, bangers. And it just has a great feature from Tyler the Creator as well, and just great songs all around. And then if I had to order them, I'd say C tier is good. I would put Thursday over Starboy, honestly. I think Starboy is his weakest project by far. For the beep category, I would put Dawn FM over Beauty Behind the Madness, and that's good for the B. And then with A, I'd say After Hours I enjoy more than House of Balloons, although I would understand why people would like House of Balloons more. But After Hours is kind of just, I was there for it, and it'll always be like near and dear to my heart, I guess. And so, yeah, that is my objective ranking of the Weeknd's albums. If you have any comments or concerns, be sure to put them in the comments below, and I will be sure to ignore them. And I'll see you guys later.